The music school had always been a place of quiet hums and soft piano notes, a world where students practiced diligently in small rooms with polished wooden floors. The young woman arrived every day with a small satchel over her shoulder, her posture calm and reserved and her eyes quietly observant. She did not speak much, but she listened to everything around her. She watched how other students struggled with simple exercises, how some would complain about the difficulty, and how others simply gave up and left the practice room frustrated. She had never drawn attention to herself, never boasted about her skills. People assumed she was just like them, another student working hard to improve. Her teachers were well known in the city for their strict methods and high expectations. They took pride in pushing students beyond what they thought were their limits. Each teacher had their own way of testing students, and they often set challenges that seemed impossible, just to see how far someone could go. The young woman had been attending this school for several months, quietly absorbing lessons and practicing alone when no one was watching. Her fingers moved across the keys with an ease that came naturally, and she could feel the music as if it were a part of her body, but she never revealed this to anyone. She was careful, almost secretive, not wanting to draw attention or provoke envy. One day, as she entered the familiar hallway, she noticed the teachers gathered in a small cluster near the grand piano at the center of the room. They looked serious, whispering to one another, and then their eyes turned toward her. One of them, a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "We have something special for you today," he said, his voice carrying a tone that was both commanding and challenging. The young woman tilted her head slightly, curious but not showing much reaction. She had learned long ago that outward expressions often led to unwanted attention. She simply nodded, ready to listen. The teacher handed her a sheet of music, the notes dense and complex. It was a piece known to be extremely difficult, a composition that had challenged even the most advanced students. She looked at it carefully, her eyes scanning the notes, the tempo markings, the intricate patterns. She did not panic or hesitate. Instead, she felt a spark of excitement. This was not just a challenge. It was an opportunity to show what she could truly do. The other students whispered among themselves, many of them skeptical. "She won't be able to play that," one said quietly. "No one can handle this piece," another added. The young woman heard the murmurs but did not let them affect her. She understood that this was part of the game, part of the way teachers tested their students. She had learned to keep her focus on the music, on the keys, and on the sound she could create, rather than on the opinions of others. Her teachers, meanwhile, watched her closely, expecting hesitation or struggle. They had assigned this piece to see if she would falter, to see if she would crumble under pressure. They had no idea that she had been practicing compositions far beyond this level in private, that she had a natural understanding of music that allowed her to interpret complex pieces with precision and emotion. They assumed she was like any other student, someone who could be challenged and pushed to their limits. Over the next few days, the young woman immersed herself in the music. She would arrive early and stay late, often alone in the practice room. Her fingers moved across the keys with fluidity, her eyes tracing the notes with intense focus. Each passage that seemed impossible at first gradually became part of her memory, part of her body's rhythm. She learned to feel the music, to anticipate the flow of each phrase, and to express it with subtle dynamics that brought life to every note. The teachers continued to check on her, often stepping in unannounced to observe her practice. They expected to see hesitation, mistakes, and struggle. Instead, they saw a calm, deliberate approach, hands moving confidently over the keys, eyes focused yet serene. There were moments when she paused, but only to reflect and adjust, never out of confusion. They exchanged glances, a mixture of curiosity and disbelief growing on their faces. Something about her was different, but they could not yet put their finger on it. Meanwhile, the other students began to notice changes too. Some felt intimidated, watching her progress with what seemed like effortless mastery. Others were inspired, seeing someone who seemed to transcend the ordinary challenges they faced. The young woman remained largely unaware of their reactions, her attention always returning to the music. She had always found comfort in the piano, in the quiet world it created around her, and she felt a sense of anticipation building inside her. This piece was not just a test from the teachers. It was a canvas for her abilities, a chance to express something she had held within herself for so long. Evenings were the most special. When the school was nearly empty, she would stay behind, letting the hall grow silent around her. The echoes of the piano filled the space, carrying her skill and emotion through the wooden walls. She experimented with subtle variations, small improvisations that made the piece her own. Each day she grew more confident, more connected to the music, and she felt a quiet thrill at the thought of performing it for the teachers and the other students. As the day of the formal performance approached, tension began to build. The teachers spoke quietly among themselves, debating whether she would succeed or fail. Some of the more experienced instructors expressed doubt, recalling the history of the piece and the difficulty it posed. Others were intrigued, sensing something unusual in the way she practiced and prepared. They had underestimated her abilities, and this realization made them uneasy. They were about to witness something they had not anticipated. The young woman herself felt a mixture of excitement and calm determination. She had always known that her talent was special, but she had never felt the need to prove it. Now, faced with the challenge her teachers had set before her, she welcomed the opportunity to demonstrate what she could do. She did not seek applause or recognition. She sought only to engage fully with the music, to let it flow through her fingers and into the hall. Her preparation was meticulous. She worked on each section of the piece, breaking it down into smaller parts, perfecting each transition, and ensuring that every note carried the right emotion and timing. She listened to herself carefully, adjusting tempo, dynamics, and phrasing until the piece felt alive under her hands. Each practice session brought new insights, revealing patterns and connections that others might overlook. Her understanding of the music was not just technical. It was intuitive, emotional, and profound. By the time the performance day arrived, she was ready. She had spent countless hours preparing, not for the approval of others, but to honor the music itself. Her calm demeanor concealed a deep anticipation, a quiet excitement that grew with every passing moment. The hall was filled with students, teachers, and a few invited guests. Everyone was curious to see how she would perform. The piece was known for its difficulty, and expectations were low. Most assumed she would struggle, perhaps even fail. As she walked to the piano, there was a hush in the room. The young woman took a deep breath, placed her fingers on the keys, and allowed the first notes to emerge. They were clear, confident, and full of life. Her hands moved effortlessly, navigating the complex passages with precision and grace. The hall seemed to fade away, leaving only the music and her connection to it. She played with a sense of purpose, each phrase shaped with care, each note resonating with emotion. The teachers watched, their skepticism slowly giving way to astonishment. They had expected hesitation, mistakes, and visible struggle, but what they saw was mastery. Every part of the piece flowed naturally, as if it had been written for her alone. The young woman's focus was absolute, her presence commanding the music without arrogance or showiness. Even the students, who had doubted her abilities, found themselves captivated, unable to look away as the performance unfolded. For the first time, many realized that they had been wrong to underestimate her. She was not just talented, she was extraordinary. Her skill was not the result of a few lessons or hours of practice. It was a natural gift honed by dedication, curiosity, and an unspoken understanding of the language of music. The teachers felt a mix of pride, humility, and surprise. They had pushed her to the limit, thinking they were testing her, but in reality, she had surpassed their expectations in ways they could not have imagined. As the final notes rang out and the hall remained silent for a brief moment, the young woman allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. She had met the challenge not for recognition or reward, but for the joy of the music and the fulfillment of her own potential. The silence was then replaced by the sound of applause, hesitant at first and then growing louder as the audience recognized the genius they had witnessed. The young woman stood quietly, letting the moment wash over her, aware that this was only the beginning of a journey that would take her far beyond the walls of the school. That day, a quiet transformation occurred. The teachers, who had assumed they knew the limits of their students, learned a powerful lesson about the danger of underestimating someone's true abilities. The other students, who had doubted her, found inspiration in her dedication and skill. And the young woman herself, who had always played in the shadows, stepped closer to the light, ready to embrace the path that lay ahead. She had faced a challenge set by others and had met it with grace, talent, and quiet determination, revealing the extraordinary potential that had always been inside her. After the performance that had stunned everyone, The young woman returned to her routine at the music school, but things had changed. The teachers who had once observed her with skepticism now watched with careful curiosity. Some seemed uneasy, realizing they had misjudged her abilities, while others quietly admired her talent. Among the students, whispers and speculation spread quickly. Some were inspired by what they had seen, while others felt a twinge of envy or self-doubt. The young woman, however, remained focused on her music. She had no desire to compete with anyone or seek attention. For her, the piano was a sanctuary, a place where she could connect with something larger than herself. The teachers, unsure of how to proceed, decided to assign another challenge. This time they chose a piece even more complicated and demanding, thinking that if anyone could push her limits, it would be this one. They wanted to see if her performance had been a fluke, or if she truly possessed extraordinary skill. The piece was notorious among advanced students, a composition filled with rapid runs, tricky rhythms, and sudden shifts in dynamics. It had defeated many talented pianists in the past, leaving them frustrated and embarrassed. When the young woman received the sheet music, she studied it silently, her expression calm and thoughtful. Unlike others who might have been intimidated, she felt a quiet thrill. Each note, each phrase spoke to her in a way that made her want to explore it further. She understood that this challenge was not meant to break her, but to reveal her strengths, and she was ready. Days turned into weeks as she immersed herself in the piece. She spent hours in the practice room, carefully dissecting each section and mastering it piece by piece. Her approach was methodical but also intuitive. She could feel the flow of the music as if it were an extension of herself, and her fingers responded with a natural agility that seemed effortless. She discovered subtle nuances and possibilities within the composition that others might never notice. Her interpretation was personal, creative, and precise, giving life to the notes in a way that made the piece feel fresh and vibrant. During this time, the other students watched her progress with a mix of awe and anxiety. Some tried to imitate her techniques, hoping to achieve similar results, while others resigned themselves to the realization that her talent was extraordinary and likely unattainable. The young woman remained largely unaware of their reactions, her mind focused entirely on the music. She did not seek admiration or approval. Her motivation came from within, from a desire to connect with the music and explore its depths. The teachers, meanwhile, were both impressed and challenged. They had believed that they could predict the limits of their students, but this young woman consistently proved them wrong. They observed her practice sessions, sometimes stepping in to offer guidance, other times simply watching in silence. There were moments when they caught themselves holding their breath, astonished by her speed, precision, and emotional depth. They realized that she was not just technically skilled. She had a rare ability to understand the essence of the music and communicate it with subtlety and power. As the performance day for the new piece approached, the atmosphere in the school shifted. The hallways buzzed with speculation. Students talked in hushed tones about what might happen, and even some teachers whispered among themselves, acknowledging the young woman's growing reputation. Despite this, she remained calm and composed, as if the attention around her did not exist. She spent her days preparing, refining each detail, and ensuring that her interpretation was both accurate and expressive. On the day of the performance, the hall was filled with anticipation. The audience included students, teachers, and a few visitors who had been invited to witness this extraordinary talent. The young woman walked to the piano with quiet confidence, her posture relaxed but purposeful. She did not glance at the audience. Her eyes were fixed on the keys, on the music, and on the connection she felt with the composition. As she began to play, the room fell silent. Every note resonated clearly, each phrase flowing naturally into the next. The piece, known for its difficulty and complexity, seemed to bend to her will. She navigated rapid passages and sudden changes in tempo with ease, her fingers dancing over the keys in perfect coordination. The audience was captivated, unable to look away as the music filled the hall. The young woman's expression remained focused, yet there was a subtle joy in her eyes, a reflection of the pleasure she took in mastering the challenge. The teachers watched in astonishment. They had expected to see struggle, hesitation, perhaps even failure, but instead they witnessed mastery. Every element of the piece was executed flawlessly, and her interpretation added depth and emotion that transcended mere technical skill. They exchanged glances, a mixture of admiration and disbelief in their eyes. They had underestimated her, and it was clear that she possessed a rare gift that went far beyond their expectations. Throughout the performance, the other students experienced a range of emotions. Some felt inspired, realizing that dedication and focus could lead to extraordinary results. Others felt a pang of envy, recognizing that they had underestimated someone who had quietly surpassed them. The young woman, however, remained immersed in the music, her attention solely on the connection between her and the piano. She was not performing to impress. She was performing to explore, to understand, and to express the beauty of the composition. As the final notes echoed through the hall, there was a moment of silence as if the audience collectively held its breath. Then applause erupted, filling the space with energy and admiration. The young woman allowed herself a small smile, acknowledging the reaction without becoming distracted or prideful. She had met the challenge not for recognition, but because it was part of her journey as a musician, part of the process of discovering her own potential. The teachers approached her cautiously after the performance. Some offered genuine congratulations while others struggled to find words, humbled by the realization that their assumptions had been entirely wrong. They had thought they were testing her, but in reality she had revealed a depth of talent and understanding that they had not anticipated. The young woman accepted their praise graciously, her demeanor calm and composed, reflecting the quiet confidence that had guided her throughout her journey. In the days that followed, her reputation grew. Students and teachers alike spoke of her extraordinary performance, and she became a source of inspiration within the school. Invitations to perform at events and competitions began to arrive, and her skill was recognized beyond the walls of the music school. Despite this attention, she remained humble, focused on her music rather than on accolades. For her, the piano was not a means to fame or approval, but a way to connect with something profound and enduring. The young woman's experience during this period revealed several important truths. She learned that true talent often emerges quietly, hidden from view until the right moment. She discovered that persistence, focus, and dedication can transform a challenge into an opportunity for growth and expression. And she realized that while recognition and admiration can be gratifying, they are secondary to the personal fulfillment that comes from pursuing one's passion with sincerity and devotion. Her teachers, on the other hand, gained a valuable lesson about humility and the dangers of underestimating someone based on appearances or assumptions. They saw firsthand that talent can be hidden beneath modesty and silence, and that it may reveal itself in unexpected and extraordinary ways. They also recognized the importance of nurturing and supporting students, allowing them to explore their abilities without imposing limits or expectations that might stifle their potential. As the young woman continued to practice and perform, she became more deeply connected to her music. Each new piece offered a new challenge, a new opportunity to explore the depths of her talent and creativity. She approached every composition with care, dedication, and a sense of curiosity, always seeking to understand the nuances and emotions embedded within the music. Her journey was not driven by external validation, but by a genuine love for the art form and a desire to grow as a musician. Throughout this time, she remained grounded and approachable, never allowing her growing reputation to create distance between herself and others. She encouraged fellow students, sharing insights and techniques when appropriate, and demonstrating through example the value of hard work, patience, and focus. Her humility and dedication inspired those around her, fostering an environment of mutual respect and admiration within the school. By the end of this period, the young woman had not only mastered the challenging piece assigned by her teachers, but she had also grown as a musician and as a person. She had demonstrated that true talent is more than technical skill. It encompasses emotional intelligence, creativity, perseverance, and the ability to connect deeply with one's craft. Her journey had transformed her from a quiet, unnoticed student into a remarkable pianist whose abilities could not be ignored or underestimated. The experience also set the stage for future challenges and opportunities. With her skills recognized and respected, she was now in a position to take on even more complex compositions, explore new styles of music, and share her talent with a wider audience. She understood that her journey was ongoing, and that each new challenge would offer an opportunity to grow, learn, and express herself in ways that were uniquely her own. Through it all, She maintained the same quiet determination and focus that had guided her from the beginning. She had learned that success is not measured solely by accolades or recognition, but by the personal fulfillment and growth that comes from engaging deeply with one's passion. And she knew that as long as she remained true to herself and her love for music, there were no limits to what she could achieve. The morning of the next big performance arrived with a mix of excitement and tension in the music school. The young woman walked through the hallways with her usual calmness, carrying a sense of quiet purpose. She had practiced tirelessly for weeks, mastering every intricate detail of the new piece assigned by her teachers. Her mind was focused entirely on the music, and she allowed herself a moment of reflection, thinking about how far she had come since the first difficult piece she had been asked to perform. The hall was already filling with students and teachers. There was a palpable energy in the air, a mixture of curiosity, anticipation, and even anxiety. Everyone wanted to see if she could once again rise to the challenge. The teachers, though still cautious, were eager to witness her performance. They had learned to respect her abilities, but they still wondered if this piece would test her limits in ways that even she might find difficult. The young woman approached the grand piano with a sense of calm determination. She adjusted the bench, took a deep breath, and positioned her fingers above the keys. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, centering herself and letting the music fill her mind even before she played a single note. The audience watched in silence, sensing that something extraordinary was about to happen. As she began, the room was immediately captivated. The first notes were precise and clear, each one echoing with emotion. The piece was known for its complexity, full of rapid passages and sudden changes in tempo, yet her hands moved across the keys effortlessly. The audience was struck by the fluidity of her playing, the way each note seemed to flow naturally into the next. There was no hesitation, no faltering, only a seamless connection between the musician and the music. Her teachers leaned forward, their eyes wide with amazement. They had expected difficulty, perhaps some mistakes, but instead they witnessed mastery. Every section of the piece was executed with confidence and skill, and her interpretation brought out subtle emotions that made the composition feel alive. Even those who had doubted her could not deny the brilliance of her performance. The young woman's focus was unwavering, her attention entirely on the music, yet there was a quiet joy in her expression, a reflection of the pleasure she felt while playing. The other students were equally captivated. Some felt inspired, realizing that dedication and passion could lead to extraordinary results. Others experienced a sense of awe, recognizing that they were witnessing a talent that went far beyond the ordinary. The young woman remained aware of their presence only in the sense that it did not distract her. She had learned to immerse herself completely in the music, to let it guide her movements and emotions. As the piece progressed, the audience began to notice the depth and subtlety of her interpretation. She played with sensitivity, adjusting dynamics and tempo to convey the mood and character of each section. The fast passages were executed with precision and energy, while the slower, more expressive moments revealed a profound understanding of the emotional core of the music. The young woman's performance was not just about technical skill. It was about communication, storytelling, and connection. The teachers could not hide their astonishment. They had assigned the piece thinking it would challenge her to the point of difficulty, but she had transformed it into an opportunity to display her true talent. Their respect for her grew with every note, and they found themselves learning from her approach, realizing that mastery of music involved more than just technique. It involved intuition, creativity, and a deep emotional connection. The young woman's hands moved swiftly over the keys, yet every note was deliberate, every phrase carefully shaped. She navigated the complex passages with ease, and her timing was flawless. The audience could feel the energy and passion in her performance as if the music itself was alive and flowing through her. Each chord, each melodic line carried meaning and emotion, drawing listeners into a world where only the music existed. As the performance neared its climax, the intensity of the piece increased. Rapid arpeggios and dramatic shifts demanded complete focus and precision. The young woman responded with unwavering skill, her fingers moving in perfect harmony with her internal sense of rhythm and expression. The room seemed to hold its breath as she approached the final passages, knowing that the conclusion would be both challenging and revealing. The final notes rang out, clear and resonant, filling the hall with a sense of completion and triumph. There was a brief moment of silence as the audience absorbed the magnitude of what they had witnessed. Then applause erupted, growing louder and more enthusiastic with each passing second. The young woman allowed herself a small smile, acknowledging the reaction without letting it distract her from the deep satisfaction she felt from having performed the piece to the best of her ability. Her teachers approached her, a mix of humility, admiration, and surprise on their faces. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a combination of technical mastery, emotional depth, and personal expression that went far beyond what they had anticipated. They offered their congratulations, some struggling to find words, others simply nodding in respect. The young woman accepted their praise with grace, her focus still centered on the music rather than the accolades. After the performance, students crowded around her asking questions and expressing their admiration. She answered politely and patiently, sharing insights when appropriate, but she did not boast or seek attention. Her goal had never been to impress others. It had been to explore the music, to challenge herself, and to grow as a pianist. Her humility and dedication inspired those around her, encouraging them to approach their own practice with renewed focus and determination. In the days following the performance, the young woman continued her studies with the same quiet dedication. She explored new pieces, each one presenting unique challenges and opportunities for growth. She remained attentive to detail, careful to understand the emotional and technical aspects of every composition. Her teachers continued to observe her, learning from her approach and gaining a deeper appreciation for her abilities. The students, too, were influenced by her example, striving to emulate her commitment and discipline. The young woman's journey at the music school revealed several important truths. She understood that true talent is not just about natural ability, but also about dedication, focus, and a deep connection to one's craft. She learned that challenges, even those that seem impossible, can become opportunities for growth and self-expression. And she recognized that recognition and admiration, while gratifying, are secondary to the personal fulfillment that comes from pursuing one's passion with sincerity and devotion. Her teachers, having witnessed her extraordinary performances, reflected on their own assumptions and judgments. They realized that talent can be hidden beneath modesty and silence, and that it may reveal itself in ways that defy expectations. They understood the importance of nurturing students, providing guidance and support without imposing limits or preconceived notions. The young woman had taught them a valuable lesson about humility, observation, and the potential that lies within each individual. Throughout this period, the young woman continued to practice and perform, her skills growing stronger and more refined. Each new piece offered a fresh challenge and a chance to deepen her understanding of music. She approached every composition with curiosity, discipline, and respect, always seeking to connect with the music on a profound level. Her journey was ongoing, and each step brought her closer to realizing the full extent of her potential. Despite her growing reputation, she remained grounded and approachable. She encouraged her fellow students, offering advice and support when needed and demonstrating through her actions the value of patience, focus, and perseverance. Her humility, combined with her extraordinary talent, made her a role model within the school, admired not only for her skill, but also for her character. By the end of this period, the young woman had firmly established herself as a remarkable pianist, capable of mastering the most challenging compositions with grace and expression. She had demonstrated that true talent encompasses more than technical proficiency. It involves emotional intelligence, creativity, and the ability to connect deeply with the art form. Her journey had transformed her from a quiet, unnoticed student into a celebrated musician whose abilities were recognized and respected by teachers, peers, and audiences alike. The experience also set the stage for future opportunities. With her skills acknowledged and her reputation growing, she was now prepared to explore more advanced compositions, perform in competitions and concerts, and share her talent with a wider audience. She understood that her journey as a musician was far from over, and that each new challenge would offer opportunities for growth, learning, and self-expression. Through it all, the young woman maintained the calm focus and quiet determination that had guided her from the beginning. She had learned that success is not measured solely by accolades or recognition, but by the fulfillment and growth that come from engaging deeply with one's passion. and she knew that as long as she remained true to herself and her love for music, there were no limits to what she could achieve. The days after the young woman's remarkable performance were filled with a quiet excitement that swept through the music school. Her reputation had grown far beyond what she had anticipated. Students whispered her name in the hallways, and teachers who once doubted her abilities now regarded her with a mixture of respect and awe. Invitations for small performances and local competitions began arriving, though she approached each with the same calm demeanor she had always maintained. Her focus remained on the music itself, rather than the attention it brought. One morning, a group of teachers gathered in a room to discuss her progress. Their conversation was filled with both pride and a hint of regret. They had underestimated her abilities, assuming that she would struggle with the difficult pieces they had assigned. Now it was clear that she possessed a level of talent and understanding that far surpassed what they had imagined. They spoke quietly, almost reverently, acknowledging the rare combination of skill, intuition, and emotional depth that she displayed. It was a lesson in humility for them, and one they would not forget. Meanwhile, the young woman continued her routine of practice and study, exploring more challenging compositions with dedication. Each new piece presented a fresh opportunity to refine her technique and deepen her connection to the music. She approached each challenge with patience, breaking down the music into sections, understanding the emotions behind each phrase, and allowing her intuition to guide her interpretation. Her hands moved over the keys with precision and grace, producing melodies that seemed to touch the very heart of those who listened. Her performances became events within the school. Students, teachers, and occasional visitors would gather to witness her play, eager to experience the extraordinary talent that had captured their attention. Yet she never played for applause or recognition. Each performance was an exploration, a conversation between herself and the music, a journey into the depths of emotion and expression. The audience, unable to look away, found themselves transported into a world where every note carried meaning and every phrase conveyed feeling. The young woman's teachers began to involve her in more advanced lessons, sharing insights and techniques that they believed would challenge even her abilities. They assigned compositions from a wide range of styles and periods, each one chosen to test different aspects of her skill. Some of the pieces were technically demanding, with intricate fingerings and rapid passages. Others required emotional subtlety, asking her to convey complex feelings through nuanced dynamics and phrasing. Through each challenge, she responded with mastery, impressing everyone who watched her practice and perform. Her fellow students were both inspired and intimidated. Some approached her for guidance, eager to learn from someone who had proven to be so talented. She was patient and encouraging, offering tips and demonstrating techniques without a hint of arrogance. Others struggled with feelings of envy, unable to reconcile their own limitations with the seemingly effortless skill she displayed. Yet, even in these moments, she remained unaware of any rivalry or competition, focused solely on her own journey and the music she loved. As weeks passed, the young woman began to receive invitations to perform outside the school. Local events, small concerts, and music competitions sought her participation, recognizing the rare talent she possessed. She accepted some of these invitations, careful to balance her commitments with her ongoing studies. Each performance was approached with the same quiet focus and dedication, her goal always to explore the music fully and express its beauty, rather than to seek fame or recognition. One day, a prominent guest visited the school, invited by the teachers to witness her abilities. This guest was a respected figure in the world of music, known for discerning talent and excellence. The teachers hoped that by presenting the young woman's skills, they might gain insight into her potential for broader recognition and perhaps even professional opportunities. The young woman, unaware of the guest's presence until she entered the hall, approached the piano with her usual calm confidence. As she began to play, the hall was immediately filled with the beauty and intensity of her performance. Every note was precise, every phrase infused with emotion. The piece, chosen for its complexity and expressive demands, flowed seamlessly under her hands. The audience, including the guest, was captivated. The young woman's mastery of the music was evident, but it was her ability to communicate emotion and nuance that truly set her apart. Each subtle dynamic, each carefully shaped phrase spoke directly to the listeners' hearts. When the final note faded into silence, there was a brief pause as the audience absorbed the magnitude of what they had witnessed. Then, applause erupted, first slowly, then building into a resounding ovation. The guest approached the young woman, offering words of admiration and encouragement. They praised her technical skill, her emotional depth, and her remarkable ability to convey the essence of the music. The young woman accepted the praise with grace, her focus still on the music rather than the recognition. The teachers watching this interaction felt a sense of pride and validation. Their early doubts and underestimations had been proven wrong, and they could not help but marvel at the young woman's extraordinary talent. They realized that she was not simply a student to be taught and challenged. She was an artist, capable of interpreting music in ways that few could imagine. This recognition also brought a sense of responsibility, as they understood the importance of supporting her continued growth and ensuring she had opportunities to fully develop her potential. In the days that followed, the young woman continued to practice and perform with the same quiet dedication that had guided her from the beginning. She explored new compositions, each one offering fresh challenges and opportunities for growth. She remained focused on the music itself, valuing the process of learning, experimenting, and expressing over the external accolades or recognition that came with her talent. Her humility, combined with her extraordinary skill, inspired both students and teachers alike. Through her journey, the young woman learned important lessons about perseverance, dedication, and the value of staying true to oneself. She understood that talent alone was not enough. It required hard work, focus, and a willingness to explore and push boundaries. She also recognized that recognition and praise, while gratifying, were secondary to the personal fulfillment and growth that came from engaging deeply with one's passion. Her teachers, having witnessed her continuous growth and remarkable performances, reflected on their own approach to teaching. They realized that they could not judge a student solely by appearances or initial impressions. Talent could be hidden, emerging only when given the right opportunity and environment to flourish. They understood the importance of patience, guidance, and support, allowing students to discover their own potential without imposing limits or preconceived expectations. The young woman's experience also had a profound impact on her fellow students. Many were inspired by her dedication and skill, striving to improve their own abilities and approach music with greater focus and commitment. They observed her methodical practice, her careful attention to detail, and her ability to connect emotionally with the music. In doing so, they learned that excellence was not simply about innate talent, but about consistent effort, curiosity, and a deep engagement with one's craft. Over time, the young woman's reputation extended beyond the school. Invitations to perform at larger events and competitions began to arrive, offering opportunities to share her talent with a broader audience. She approached each new opportunity with the same calm determination, focusing on the music itself and the personal growth it offered. She did not seek fame or attention, but she embraced the chance to explore her abilities further and to connect with audiences through her performances. Through it all, the young woman remained humble and grounded. She continued to support her fellow students, offering guidance and encouragement when appropriate, and demonstrating through her actions the importance of patience, dedication, and integrity. Her journey was not just about her own success. It was also about fostering an environment where others could learn, grow, and be inspired by her example. By the end of this period, the young woman had firmly established herself as a pianist of extraordinary talent and character. She had demonstrated mastery of complex compositions, emotional depth, and the ability to communicate through music in ways that captivated and inspired her audience. Her teachers had learned the value of humility, observation, and support, while her fellow students had been encouraged to strive for their own excellence. The young woman's journey continued, guided by her passion for music and her commitment to growth. Each new challenge offered an opportunity to refine her skills, explore new expressive possibilities, and connect with audiences in meaningful ways. She had proven that true talent is not only about technical skill, but also about emotional intelligence, dedication, and the willingness to embrace challenges with focus and grace. And as she continued her path, it became clear that her potential was limitless. limited only by the boundaries she chose to explore and the depth of her own creativity. As the young woman's reputation grew, she began to receive invitations to perform in cities beyond her own. Each invitation brought with it a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation, but she remained calm, prepared as she always was. She understood that every new performance was an opportunity to explore her abilities further, to connect with the audience, and to continue her journey as a musician. Her teachers and fellow students at the music school watched with pride, knowing that her talent was now being recognized on a larger stage. Her first performance outside the school was in a small concert hall in the neighboring city. The hall was filled with music enthusiasts, students, and teachers who had traveled to see her play. She stepped onto the stage with her usual quiet confidence, acknowledging the audience with a gentle nod before sitting at the grand piano. The lights dimmed and the room fell silent. She placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. From the very first note, the audience was captivated. Her hands moved effortlessly, navigating the complex passages with precision and grace. Every note was infused with emotion, and each phrase carried a sense of purpose and expression. The young woman's focus was absolute, yet there was a subtle joy in her eyes, a reflection of the fulfillment she felt while performing. The audience could sense the connection she had with the music, and it resonated deeply with them. The piece she played was one that many professional pianists had found challenging. Yet she performed it with apparent ease, bringing out nuances and subtleties that others had missed. The music seemed to flow naturally through her, each passage perfectly timed and each dynamic carefully shaped. The audience was silent, entranced by the depth and beauty of her performance. Her teachers had traveled to see this performance, and they watched in awe. They had long known of her exceptional talent, but seeing her play on this larger stage revealed the full extent of her abilities. They observed her focus, her interpretation, and her emotional connection to the music. For them, it was a proud and humbling moment, witnessing a student who had once been quiet and unnoticed transform into a musician capable of captivating an audience with extraordinary skill and grace. When the final notes faded into silence, the audience erupted into applause, cheering and clapping with admiration. The young woman allowed herself a small, appreciative smile, acknowledging their response without letting it distract her. She had always played for the music, for the joy of expression and the satisfaction of mastering a piece. Recognition and praise were secondary, yet she accepted them graciously, understanding that they were a reflection of the connection she had established with the listeners. Following this performance, more invitations arrived from other cities and even other countries. She was asked to participate in music festivals, competitions, and special concerts, and she carefully selected those that offered meaningful opportunities to grow and challenge herself. Each performance was approached with the same meticulous preparation and quiet focus. She analyzed each piece, practiced diligently, and explored the emotional depth of the music, ensuring that every performance was both technically precise and deeply expressive. Her teachers continued to guide her, offering insights and advanced techniques to refine her skills. They encouraged her to explore different styles and periods of music, to experiment with interpretation, and to develop her own voice as a pianist. While she absorbed their guidance, she also trusted her intuition and understanding, allowing her own creativity to shape her performances. She was not simply following instructions, she was expressing herself, communicating through the language of music. The young woman's experiences also had a profound impact on her fellow students. Many were inspired by her dedication, discipline, and humility. They observed her commitment to practice, her careful attention to detail, and her ability to convey emotion through music. Her example encouraged them to approach their own studies with greater focus and determination. Even those who had once doubted her abilities now respected her deeply, recognizing the rare combination of talent, hard work, and emotional intelligence that she embodied. Despite her growing fame and recognition, the young woman remained grounded. She continued to live simply, valuing the process of learning and performing above material rewards or accolades. She practiced regularly, explored new compositions, and maintained her connection to the music with the same quiet dedication that had always guided her. She encouraged other students, shared insights when appropriate, and demonstrated through her actions the importance of humility and perseverance. Over time, she gained opportunities to perform internationally, Concert halls in other countries opened their doors to her, audiences eager to experience her talent. Each performance brought new challenges, requiring adaptation to different venues, audiences, and musical traditions. She embraced these opportunities with enthusiasm, using them as a way to grow and expand her understanding of music. She learned to communicate across cultures through the universal language of melody, harmony, and rhythm. Her teachers and mentors continued to support her journey, proud of the student they had once underestimated. They marveled at her growth, from a quiet, diligent young woman to a pianist capable of captivating audiences worldwide. They recognized that her success was not simply due to natural talent, but also to her relentless dedication, curiosity, and passion for music. Their initial underestimation had been corrected, replaced by deep respect and admiration. The young woman's journey also taught her important life lessons. She learned that true success comes from persistence, self-discipline, and a willingness to embrace challenges. She understood that talent alone is not enough. It must be cultivated through practice, exploration, and emotional engagement. She recognized that recognition and praise, while gratifying, are not the ultimate goal. The true reward lies in personal growth, the joy of mastering a piece, and the connection between musician and music. Through her experiences, she also developed a profound sense of empathy and understanding. She knew what it was like to be underestimated, overlooked, and quietly observed. She treated her fellow students and colleagues with kindness and patience, offering guidance without judgment and encouragement without arrogance. She became a role model not only for her technical skill, but also for her character, demonstrating that greatness is defined by both talent and integrity. As her career progressed, the young woman continued to explore new horizons. She experimented with contemporary compositions, improvised on traditional pieces, and collaborated with other musicians. Each experience enriched her understanding of music and deepened her connection to the art form. She approached every opportunity with curiosity, focus, and respect, striving to bring authenticity and depth to every performance. Through it all, she remained true to herself. She never allowed fame, accolades, or external expectations to dictate her approach to music. She practiced diligently, performed with passion, and expressed herself with honesty. Her journey demonstrated that true mastery is not only about technical skill, but also about emotional depth, self-awareness, and dedication to one's craft. Eventually, her reputation reached the highest levels of the musical world. Prestigious concert halls, orchestras, and festivals sought her participation. Critics praised her performances, audiences admired her expression, and fellow musicians respected her artistry. Yet she remained humble, grounded, and committed to the music itself. Each new challenge was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to explore the limitless possibilities of her talent. The young woman's journey from a quiet, overlooked student to a celebrated pianist was a testament to perseverance, dedication, and the power of passion. She had faced challenges, overcome doubts, and transformed her natural talent into extraordinary skill through relentless effort and focus. She had demonstrated that true genius is not merely a gift, but a combination of talent, hard work, emotional intelligence, and a deep love for one's craft. In the final reflection of her story, she continued to sit at the piano, hands poised above the keys, ready to explore the next composition, the next challenge. Her journey was ongoing, and each note she played was a step further along the path she had chosen. She knew that her potential was limitless, bound only by her curiosity, dedication, and willingness to engage fully with the music she loved. And so she played on, a quiet genius whose talent and passion inspired all who had the privilege of listening, leaving a lasting mark on the world of music and in the hearts of those who witnessed her extraordinary journey.